There is a man sitting at his kitchen table at 11 o'clock at night. The overhead light is too bright for the hour. The coffee in front of him has gone cold. It is the second cup, and he did not finish the first one either. His laptop is open. There are two tabs. One is a pros and cons list he has been adding to for 9 days. The other is an article called How to Make Hard Decisions, which he has now read 3 times and which has not helped. His phone is face up on the table. There are 6 text threads on it. In each one, he asked someone he trusts for advice about the same decision. He got 6 answers. They do not agree. 2 of them contradict each other so completely that he is now less sure than he was before he asked anyone at all. The decision itself does not matter for our purposes. Maybe it is a job offer. Maybe it is whether to move. Maybe it is a relationship, or whether to leave something he has outgrown, or whether to take a risk that frightens him. What matters is this: he has done everything you are supposed to do. He has gathered the information. He has sought the counsel. He has weighed the options. He has run the scenario in his head so many times that the scenarios have started to blur into each other. He has more than enough information to decide, and he is further from a decision than he was a week ago. He is not thinking anymore if we are honest about it. He is spinning. The same thoughts in the same loop, faster and faster, going nowhere. And the longer he sits there, the worse it gets, because every loop adds a little more noise, and the noise is starting to bury the very thing he is trying to find. Hold him. We are going to come back to that kitchen table. Because I want to tell you something, I think a lot of you have lived at a kitchen table, or in a parked car, or lying awake at 3 in the morning and have rarely heard explained in a way that actually helps. When a decision gets hard, almost all of us do the same thing. We gather more information, more opinions, one more person's take, one more night running it through. We believe deep down that somewhere in the more is the answer we are looking for. And there is a pattern documented, consistent, more than 2,000 years old in the life of one of the most closely studied human beings who has ever lived, that suggests we have it exactly backwards. Because before every major decision he ever made, this man did not gather more. He did the opposite. He stepped away from the crowd. He got quiet. He went somewhere alone. And only then did he decide. This is not a story about being indecisive. This is not a story about needing more confidence. This is not a story about trusting your gut. This is a story about what the most famous decision maker in history actually did before the decisions, and what it offers to those of us who lie awake, spinning. And whatever you believe about who he was, the Son of God, a great moral teacher, or simply one of the most influential people who ever lived, the pattern is real, it is documented, and I think it might be exactly what you have been missing. By the end of this, you are going to have something to try, before your own next hard choice. Let me start with the trap, because I think you already live inside it, and I want to name it clearly before we talk about the way out. When a decision is hard, the overthinker reaches for more. More research, more opinions, one more article, one more person to ask. One more night lying awake running the scenario as if the 41st time through will reveal something the first 40 did not. And the reason this is so hard to stop is that it does not feel like a problem. It feels responsible. It feels like doing the work. It feels like the opposite of being reckless. But here is what is actually happening when you do that. Past a certain point, the more stops helping. And then it starts hurting. This is not only a spiritual idea, it is something decision researchers have understood for decades. There is a threshold, and most overthinkers blew past it days ago, beyond which additional information does not improve the quality of a decision. It degrades it. Your mind has a limited amount of room to hold things at once. When you flood it with options and opinions and contradicting advice and scenario after scenario, you do not give the deciding part of you more to work with. You overwhelm it, you bury it. The man at the kitchen table does not have too little information. He has so much that he can no longer find the answer underneath it. And the answer is in there. That is the cruel part. It is almost always in there, but it is at the bottom of the pile now, and every new thing he adds, every new opinion, every new tab, every new loop, is one more thing on top of it. He is not searching for the answer anymore. Without realizing it, he is burying it deeper with the very effort he thinks is going to uncover it. So let me show you a different way, the way of someone who faced decisions far heavier than yours or mine and never once made them like this. Whatever you believe about who he was, and I mean that genuinely, the record of how Jesus made decisions is remarkably consistent. It is written down in 4 separate accounts of his life, and the pattern is the same in all of them. Before every major decision he withdrew. He got alone. He got quiet. First. Consider the moment he chose the 12 people who would carry his entire movement after he was gone. By any measure, this is one of the most consequential team decisions in the history of the world. Everything that came afterward depended on it. And how did he make it? The account says he went out to a mountain by himself and stayed there the entire night alone before he chose them in the morning. Not a meeting, not a committee, not a round of interviews or a poll of his existing followers. A night, alone, on a mountain, and then he decided. Or consider the very beginning before he spoke a single public word before any of it started. The accounts say he went out into the wilderness completely alone for 40 days. Before the work began, there was a long, deliberate withdrawal into emptiness. He did not launch. He retreated, and the launching came out of the retreat. And here is the detail I find most striking because it tells you this was not occasional. It was a habit. One of the writers of his life, Luke, mentions almost in passing that Jesus would withdraw to lonely places. The wording there describes a repeated action, something he did again and again as a rhythm, even at the height of his fame, even when the crowds were enormous, even when they were begging for more of him, even when stepping away surely looked like a waste of momentum to everyone around him. He kept doing it. He kept stepping out of the noise. He never made a major decision inside the crowd. He stepped out of it, every single time, and only then did he choose. And then there was the hardest decision of his life. The night before he died, facing a choice so heavy the accounts say his body shook under the weight of it, he had to decide whether to go through with what was coming. And I want you to watch what he did because it is the exact opposite of what you and I do when the stakes get high. When a decision frightens us, we pull people in. We want the room full. We want everyone close, weighing in, sharing the weight. The bigger the choice, the more company we want around it. He did the reverse. He went to a garden at night. He brought his closest friends with him, but only to the edge of it. And then, with the heaviest decision of his entire life in front of him, he went further still, away from even them, deeper into the dark alone until there was no one left but him and the choice. The harder the decision got, the more completely he withdrew into solitude. When it mattered most, he got most alone. I think this points at something you have needed someone to tell you for a long time. Overthinking and discernment are not the same thing. They feel the same from the inside. Both of them are effortful. Both of them are about the decision, turning it over, taking it seriously. From inside your own head when you are spinning at the kitchen table, it genuinely feels like you are doing the careful, responsible thing. But they are not the same, and the difference is everything. Overthinking is thinking in circles inside the noise. Discernment is thinking in stillness outside it. One spins forever and never lands. The other settles and then sees. The difference is not how hard you think or how much you care or how smart you are. Plenty of brilliant people spin at kitchen tables every night. The difference is where you do your thinking. Inside the crowd and the noise and the endless input, or outside all of it in the quiet. There is an old Greek word for the place he kept withdrawing into. The word is Hezekiah. It means stillness. But not just the absence of noise around you that is the easy part, and it is not the part that matters most. Hezekiah means a deep inner quiet, the settling of the storm inside. There is an entire contemplative tradition built around this single word, around the idea that this inner stillness is the precondition for seeing clearly. And the image they use to explain it is the one you need tonight. You cannot see the bottom of a pond while the water is churning. You have to let it go still. And then, not because you forced it, but because you stopped stirring, the silt settles, the surface calms, and you can suddenly see all the way down to the bottom that was there the whole time. Your mind is the pond. The decision is at the bottom, and every new opinion, every new article, every new loop at the kitchen table is one more stir of the water. You have been stirring for 9 days, trying to see more clearly. The stirring is why you cannot see. And this is not only his idea, or only a Christian one. I want to be clear about that because it matters. The same recognition shows up almost everywhere human beings have thought seriously about how to live. The Buddhist sitting in silent meditation. The Stoic philosopher withdrawing to examine his own mind. The Jewish practice of hit bodhidut, going off alone, deliberately to be still. Different centuries, different languages, different beliefs about the nature of the universe, and all of them arrived independently at the same conclusion. Stillness comes before clarity. The man on the mountain was doing the most universal thing a human being can do before a hard choice. He was simply one of the most famous people ever to be seen doing it. And if you are the kind of person who has been trying to think your way out of a loop that thinking built, do me one small favor. Subscribe. Not because the algorithm needs it, because I am going to keep making these. Slow ones, small ones. About the things almost nobody else is making videos about. And there is one more thing I want to give you before we end the practice itself. The thing you can actually do. Now, I want to take you back to him. The man at the kitchen table. 11 o'clock at night. The 2 browser tabs, the 6 contradicting texts, the cold second cup of coffee, the loop going faster and faster and landing nowhere. You remember him. I want you to see him now with new eyes. The answer he is looking for is not on either of those tabs. It is not in a 7th person's opinion. It was never going to come from the more, because the more is exactly what buried it. Every article he read, every person he asked, every late-night loop was one more stir of the water. He has spent 9 days trying to see the bottom of the pond by stirring it harder. What he needs is the one thing he has not tried. Not a new piece of information, not a better framework, not more time spinning. He needs to close the laptop. Put the phone in another room, not face down on the table, in another room. Turn off the bright overhead light, and then sit there in the quiet alone with the decision and nothing else. And this is the part that is going to feel almost impossible. Add nothing. No new article, no new opinion, no new scenario, nothing into the system. Just stillness and the decision, and enough quiet for the water to start to settle. For most overthinkers, this is the hardest thing in the world, because your entire reflex is to add to reach for one more input. The second the silence gets uncomfortable. The whole discipline here is the opposite of everything that got you to the kitchen table. It is not addition. It is subtraction. You are not trying to think harder. You are trying to stop stirring so the silt can fall, so you can finally see what is at the bottom. And here is what surprises overthinkers almost every time when they actually do this. The answer is usually already there. Some quiet part of you has known maybe for a while what you actually want to do. You could not hear it not because it was absent, but because it was buried under all the noise. And most of that noise, if you are honest, was noise you added in the very act of trying to find the answer that the noise was covering up. So before we end, let me give you 3 things to take with you. The first. Overthinking is not the same as discernment. More information past a certain point does not make a hard decision. Clearer, it makes it harder to see. The way out of the loop was never going to be more thinking. It is a different kind of stillness. You cannot outthink a problem that thinking is making worse. The second, and this is the practice, the thing you can actually do. Before your next hard decision, try the oldest method there is. Go somewhere quiet alone, put the phone away in another room. And add nothing new, no article, no opinion, no fresh scenario. Just sit with the decision in the stillness for a while. It will feel uncomfortable, maybe even unbearable for the first few minutes, because your hands will itch to reach for more input. Let them itch. Let the water settle. You are not forcing an answer. You are making a quiet enough room that the answer can finally surface on its own. And the third, the one I want you to keep. The answer to the decision you are circling right now is far more often than you would believe already inside you. You cannot hear it because of the noise, and most of the noise is the noise you added trying to find it. The most consequential decisions in history were not made by the person who gathered the loudest room. They were made again and again by someone who stepped away from the room, got quiet, got alone, and listened to what was already there. A man went up a mountain in the dark and stayed all night before he chose. You do not have to climb a mountain, but you are allowed to do the same thing he did. You always were. You just may have never given yourself permission to stop gathering long enough to try. Before you go, I want to ask you something, and I do not want a clever answer. I just want you to sit with the question. What is a decision you are circling right now, and when was the last time you sat with it in complete silence without adding anything new? Tell me if you want to. Sometimes naming the decision out loud plainly with no new information attached to it is the first quiet the water has had in weeks. I am glad you stayed for this one. There are more of these coming. Slow ones, small ones, the kind nobody else is making. Until then, the next time you find yourself at the kitchen table at 11 at night, spinning with the tabs open and the loop going nowhere close to the laptop, turn off the light and give the water a chance to go still. The bottom of the pond has been there the whole time. You only need to stop stirring long enough to see it.